Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, friends, readers, listeners, and viewers, wherever you may be tuning in, whichever part of the world. I thank you for sharing your Wednesday evening to join me in this broadcast. And we are streaming out of the East Coast. It's 9 p.m., and I'm in Athens, Georgia, near Athens, Georgia. And so I just want to thank everybody, especially for all of the new listeners that have recently discovered the show and that have been led to the different things that we speak about, discuss, and bring forth on this show. And especially a lot of attention and a lot of people have now discovered our work with the release of my new book, Sons of God. This is my 6th book, and I'm already working on my next one for those that are interested. And that book will be called Pre-Existence in the Prior Times, and it's going to be a very interesting book as well. But this book, the 6th book, Sons of God, Who We Are and Why We're Here, has sparked interest in a lot of people, and it's really interesting in that there's many being brought to this discernment in this particular time. And there's even, I've been contacted, and people have shared their testimony, and I'm speaking about pastors and preachers and church leaders and those that are the head of congregations and that are responsible for tending the flock and for leading the sheep and for guiding and taking care of God's people. And so it's a beautiful thing to see all this unfolding. It's a lot better reception than what I received with the release of my 4th book. That was, I don't want to go through that again. That was awkward, to say the least. But I am grateful to all of you that have contacted me from the different parts of the world, and I have sent out copies now to many different, to the far corners of the planet. And so I'm grateful for each of those out there. And I want to thank also Mary Rose for her offer to translate the text into Spanish. I think that would be an amazing thing if this information were to be translated in other languages and made available to people in those languages. And I'm not even looking for for that to be a publication. If it was just even a PDF that could be freely shared amongst the people, and to get this information out to more individuals, I think that would be an incredible thing. So I'm grateful to you for your offer of assistance. And for those out there that, wherever different part of the world you may be in, if that's something that you're interested in doing, in making this, information available to more people, to different languages, I would certainly give a blessing to such effort, and I would certainly be willing and be willing to be a participant in such endeavor. So this evening we're going to speak about the 10 heavens. It was a specially requested topic, and I'm grateful that it was requested, because this is something that not a lot of people know about, and it's something that is discussed quite descriptively by the various extra-biblical and pseudepigraphal in the apocryphal books. And so they give fuller detail and fill in the gaps on the various levels and degrees of heaven, and also of hell, because there are different levels of Sheol and Tartarus two different levels. But yeah, and so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And I'm going to be sharing from a number of different texts. I know I won't be able to get to all of them, and I will have to do follow-up show on the various things that I'm going to be talking about here. But I also want you to know that there's going to be a lot of interesting texts, and I'm going to lay them all out, share them with you so that you can go back and read them later. And I'll make mention of them before we actually start going into the text. Okay, I'm reading. Oh, I want to do, yes, a prayer for the families. I just want to also thank the Father and the Son for another chance, another opportunity that all of us can have to come together with our families in this time of Thanksgiving, a holiday where we honor the Creator and just show some gratitude and humble ourselves before the Father and the Son, and just gratefulness, just for the blessings, the multitude of blessings that we daily receive that we don't even recognize. We don't recognize the many blessings that each of us receive, and just as a creature, as part of the creation, even to have chance to be part of existence and to experience one moment of one day, all that is incredible, and it's a true blessing. And so we should very much be grateful, and not a lot of us are. And so Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, as far as it's centered on what I think we should do every day, as far as being grateful and eternally humble to the Lord, and for all the things, just for family coming together in celebration of meal and sharing story and memory. Those are important things. And so I pray that all of you are with your families and with your loved ones, and that you find yourselves in good health and well-being, and in safety and security, and able to find laughter and joy and peace and serenity within this moment, and that you find a good meal, and that that you're with your loved ones. Blue Girl says, I hung out tonight stargazing as I prayed a prayer of thanks. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Okay, I'm going to mention some texts that you're going to want to write these down, and you're going to want to look at these later when you have time, because we're going to be touching upon some of these. And the first book I'm going to make mention of is, and the one that is very familiar to a lot of readers, and is one of the most important texts as far as life-changing. And those that read this particular extra-biblical text, it will impact your life, and it can fill in the details of, the fallen angels, the whole Genesis 6, verse 1 through 5, about the sons of God and the mating of the daughters of man, because it seems like there are still some people out there that don't get it. I just recently received an email about somebody saying that the sons of God were actually the sons of Seth, and that the daughters of men were the daughters of Cain, and that there was no hybrid mixing, and there was no difference in the bloodlines and the seed lines, and that giants never, came about, even though it says it right there in Scripture. But, people can interpret and read it for whatever they would like. And so this is the book of the Secrets of Enoch. I'll be going through some of that. We'll read about the 10 heavens. I'll start with that to set that as a foundation for the other texts that I'll go into, and then I'll start reading some various passages from other books. Another one that I want to make mention of that you should read is called The Apocalypse of Peter. the Apocalypse of Peter. And this is, again, these are differing perspectives from differing apostles, but they confirm each other in that they say the same things, and they give you eyewitness accounting of the various degrees of heaven, an eyewitness, perspective of the 10 heavens. And so another one that you're going to want to look into is called the Vision of Paul. The Vision of Paul. And I'll put some of these links into the chat room at some point as I get to them. The Vision of Paul. And another one is called the Ascension of Isaiah. Now, each one of these texts that I'm making mention of right now is going to give you an entire book on the 10 heavens. They will be included as part of what is being discussed in each one of these varying texts. So it's interesting to read them each individually for yourself to get, confirming witness on each one of them. All right. Another text that you're going to want to look into that gives information about this as well is called the Apocalypse of Adam. The Apocalypse of Adam. And then there's another interesting text that not a lot of people know about, which is called the Hebrew Book of 3 Enoch. This is the third book of Enoch, and it seems like out of all the 300-plus texts that Enoch supposedly wrote in the time that he was in the 10 heavens with the Lord, he was brought before the Word, and Pravuel, one of the archangels of the Lord, was assigned to instruct him on writing and to read from the books of heaven, to interpret for him so that he would have a testimony and an accounting of the fall of the Watchers, their interdiction into the affairs of humanity, and how humanity also led astray, and how Enoch was taken to be a living witness, to be a testimony against the sons of God, and also against the straying of the children of Adam. And so that is called the Hebrew Book of 3 Enoch, and it gives a description of Rabbi Ishmael, which is interesting, of Rabbi Ishmael being taken up through the varying degrees of heaven and being brought before Metatron, who, according to this text, was the angelic embodiment, transformation of what was the human man-child of Enoch. And if you read these texts, you'll get more description of what I'm talking about. But know that each one of these texts, they're 30, 40, 50 pages long, so it's going to take you a little bit to get through each one of them. But if you want to know about the 10 heavens in the fullness of what is available as far as the extra biblical books, then I would recommend reading these particular texts. Now, there are also other texts which don't give a full entire accounting of the 10 heavens, but they do give you a vision of the end of days and are appropriate for the fig tree generation. And those are the various apocalypses that are available out there. There's the apocalypse of Daniel, the apocalypse of Zephaniah, the apocalypse of Elijah, and the apocalypse of Ezekiel. And the apocalypse of Ezekiel gives a lot of information about the Antichrist. But each one of these texts have relevant information for us as being the last generation, the fig tree generation. So I would recommend reading those texts as well. Now, if you have any questions, certainly post them into the chat room, and I will get to them as I can. I've heard some twist on the Peter Paul thing. Any insight? Blue Girl asks. I think you'd have to be more specific. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. So if you want to be a little bit more specific, I'll be glad to get to that, Blue Girl, as soon as I can. But I'm going to go ahead and go into Second Enoch, which is the book of the secrets of Enoch, to talk about the 10 heavens, a little bit about the 10 heavens, and to go ahead and set the premise for those that have not heard about or discussed about the varying degrees of heaven and what is found on each level. Beginning with chapter 3, the book of the secrets of Enoch, or 2 Enoch, it says this. It came to pass when Enoch had told his sons that the angels took him on their wings and bore him up to the first heaven, placed him on the clouds. There I looked, and again I looked higher and saw the ether, and they placed me on the first heaven and showed me a very great sea, greater than the earthly sea. Chapter 4. They brought before my face the elders and the rulers of the stellar orders, and showed me 200 angels who rule the stars, and their services to the heavens, and fly with their wings, and come round all those who sail. And there I looked down, and I saw the treasure houses of the snow, and the angels who keep their terrible storehouses, and the clouds whence they come out, and into which they go. They showed me their treasure houses of dew, like oil of the olive in the appearance of its form, and all of the flowers of the earth. Further, many angels guarding the treasure houses of these things, and how they are made to shut and to open. And those men took me and led me up to the second heaven, and showed me darkness, greater than earthly darkness. And there I saw prisoners hanging, watched, awaiting the great and boundless judgment. And these angels were dark-looking, more than earthly darkness, and incessantly making weeping through all hours. And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these incessantly tortured? They answered me, these are God's apostates, who obeyed not God's commands, but took counsel with their own will, and turned away with their prince, who also is fastened on the fifth heaven. And I felt a great pity for them. And they saluted me and said to me, man of God, pray for us to the Lord. And I answered to them, who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? Who knows whither I go, or what will befall me, or who will pray for me? Chapter 8. And those men took me thence and led me up to the third heaven and placed me there. And I looked downwards and saw the produce of these places, such as has never been known for goodness. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees and beheld their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and all the floods borne by them bubbling with fragrant exaltation. And in the midst of the trees, that of life, in that place whereon the Lord rests, when he goes up into paradise, and this tree is ineffable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than every existing thing, and on all sides, in form gold-looking and vermilion and fire-like, and covers all, and it has produce from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end. And paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And two springs come out, which send forth honey and milk, and their springs send forth oil and wine. and they separate into 4 parts and go round with quiet course and go down into the paradise of Eden between corruptibility and incorruptibility. And thence they go forth along the earth and have a revolution to their circle, even as other elements. And here there is no unfruitful tree, and every place is blessed. And there are 300 angels very bright, who keep the garden, and with incessant sweet singing and never silent voices serve the Lord throughout all days and hours. And I said, how very sweet is this place? And those men said to me, I want to stop here for just a second. Make mention of something that Enoch ran into when, as he was ascending through the varying degrees of heaven. On the second heaven, we saw that the rebellion, those that had fallen, was their prince who was held on the 5th heaven. For those that have studied my work, I told you that on the second day, when light and darkness was separated, when Christ, our Lord, Yahushua, the light of all creation, the only begotten Son, when he was given dominion and unveiled to the angels and to the creation, and everything was witness to the creation coming into being, into visibility, and we were able to see all things, and all the angels shouted for joy at the unfolding of the morning star administration. In that moment, when Lucifer, the prince, this prince that is being spoken about, when he was cast out, Sophia, or what people know as wisdom, according to the Gnostic text, Sophia is also a representation of what is the material world. And Sophia is also mentioned as being the veil between the invisible and the visible, the imperishable and the perishable, the unseen and the seen. And so when it's talking about the prince being held on the 5th heaven, I spoke about many years ago about how when Lucifer fell, became Satan the adversary, he lost access to the heavens above the 6th heaven. That the Word, the only begotten Son, sits from the 7th to the 10th heavens, and only the higher angels of the Lord have access to those heavens. And that Sophia is the veil of the 6th heaven, and that Satan is the prince of the air. He has access from the 5th heavens down. And the fallen ones, they have access to the 5th heaven and down. And a perfect example of this, when you start to read some of those other texts that I gave mention of and gave description of earlier in the show, when you read the Ascension of Isaiah, that text will not only take you through the ascension of Isaiah being taken up to the varying degrees of heaven and being brought before the face of the Father, but that he was also witness to the Father sending the Son in disguise down through the 10 heavens until he was upon the earth and entered into the womb of the Virgin Mary and brought forth himself in immaculate conception. And so that text is very interesting because he disguises himself. And the angels of the 6 heavens and down did not recognize that the king had departed the throne, was sent by the Father to take on embodiment, to take on flesh form. And so that's a very interesting text to read. All right, we're going to continue on. Chapter 9, because I want to get through at least one account of the 10 heavens. And then it will be up to you to read all the various other accountings. I will do another show on this to bring forth, just to give some other perspective. But it would take a number of shows to get through all of those separate texts that I made mention of. Chapter 9, especially in the details that I would like to cover them. Because, like I said, they are very, very interesting texts. Chapter 9, this place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous who endure all manner of offense, from those that exasperate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity and make righteous judgment and give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen and help the injured orphans, and who walk without fault before the face of the Lord, and serve him alone. And for them is prepared this place of eternal inheritance. And those two men led me up to the northern side and showed me there a very terrible place. And there were all manner of tortures in that place, cruel darkness and unillumined gloom, and there is no light there, but murky fire constantly flaming aloft, and there is a fiery river coming forth, and that whole place is everywhere fire. Everywhere there is frost and ice and thirst and shivering. And while the bonds are very cruel, and the angel spirits fearful and merciless, bearing angry weapons, merciless torture. And I said, Woe, woe, how very terrible is this place. And those men said to me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor God, who on earth practice sin against nature, which is child corruption after the sodomitic fashion, magic making, enchantments, and devilish witchcrafts, and who boast of their wicked deeds, stealing lies, calumnies, envy, rancor, fornication, murder, and who, accursed, steal the souls of men, who, seeing the poor, take away their goods and themselves wax rich, injuring them for other men's goods, who being able to satisfy the empty, made the hungering to die, being able to clothe, strip the naked, and who knew not their Creator, and bowed to the soulless and lifeless gods, who cannot see nor hear, vain gods who also built hewn images and bow down to unclean handiwork. For all these is prepared this place among these, for eternal inheritance. I want to stop here and make mention of a recent news article that has just come out. And I believe I have pasted this on the front page of FallenAngels.tv. And this is talking about what has come out as one of the largest pedophile rings connected to a lot of prominent individuals over there in the United Kingdom. And that a lot of these individuals are politicians and, pillars of the community, so-called respected individuals, BBC, tied to TV, to the whole UK movie scene, the music industry there also. It has come to find out that, and there was a video just released, and again, I posted it to FallenAngels.tv, that is talking about how all these individuals are pedophiles and have been named as being pedophiles, but that all these individuals also have contacts with Freemasonic brotherhoods, organizations, and fraternities. And now sisterhoods, because yes, they are and have been accepting sisters into the Masons as well. And just proof of this is, there was recently a video released of Masonic handshake between Jay Leno and Lady Gaga. And now, there's all these photos just released recently of Shaquille O'Neal's indoctrination and his new Masonic ties and roots, and how he's all proud and boasts of it, his Masonic ties and connections. And so there's a lot of this going on. And I hate to break the bubble of those that have been big-time Ron Paul supporters, that if you do a little bit of research on Ron Paul, that you'll find that his family is connected to and tied to these Freemasonic organizations, that his wife is connected to Eastern Star, his daughters are Rainbow Girls, that he boasts of, relationship to the Grand Lodge of Texas. Not to mention that when he went on to Bill Maher's show, and he was there with Tucker Carlson who used to be a correspondent, a reporter over there at Fox News, that when he comes onto the show, he immediately shares Freemason handshakes with not only Bill Maher, but also Tucker Carlson, and I believe the other individual that was there. They were all Masons. And the proof is in what people say and what they do. And notice all the Baphomet salutes that Ron Paul gives while being up there speaking his speeches on revolution and the Federal Reserve. He's controlled opposition, people. All that money y'all gave to him, all those millions of dollars, it's controlled opposition, people. So you got to look deeper into what is occurring around you and to you, because the insanity is so very, very deep. Thank you, Blue Girl. Yes, we do. We live in an ugly world. All right, we're going to go back to, because I need to cover this, going back into chapter 11, Book of Enoch. We're going to make it through. And know that the third heaven, where paradise and also Sheol are, that this is where we fell from, that this is where Adam and Eve were originally placed after their creation. That they were placed in paradise with the other 300 angels, and that they were part of those that tended the garden until they were deceived, tricked, and seduced and caused to fall. All right, chapter 11. Those then took me and led me up on to the fourth heaven, and showed me all the successive goings, and all the rays of the light, and the sun and the moon. And I measured their goings, and compared their lights, and saw that the sun's light is greater than the moon's. Its circle and the wheels on which it goes always, like the wind going past, with very marvelous speed, and day and night it has no rest. Its passage and return accompanied by 4 great stars, and each star has under it 1,000 stars, to the right of the sun's wheel, and by 4 to the left, each having under it 1,000 stars. Altogether 8,000 issuing with the sun continually. And by day 15 myriads of angels attended, and by night 8,000. And 6 winged ones issued with the angels before the sun's wheel into the fiery flames, and 100 angels kindle the sun and set it alight. So it says that here that 100 angels are what gives light to the sun. And notice also that it speaks about the sun moving in revolutions, in cycles, and in orbit. So here you have this book of Enoch, this 1,000-year-old text, that speaks about the orbital rotation of the sun and the moon and the earth, giving description to it thousands of years before, when everybody was still thinking the world was flat. Chapter 12. And I looked, and I saw other flying elements of the sun, whose names phoenixes and chalcedony, marvelous and wonderful, with feet and tails in the form of a lion and a crocodile's head. Their appearance is in purple like the rainbow, their size 9,000 measures. Their wings are like those of angels, each 12, and they attend and accompany the sun, bearing heat and dew as it is ordered them from God. Thus revolves and goes and rises under the heaven, and its course goes under the earth with the light of its rays incessantly. Chapter 13. Those men bore me away to the east and placed me at the sun's gates, where the sun goes forth according to the regulation of the seasons, and the circuit of the months of the whole year, and the number of the hours and days and nights. I'm going to skip past this particular part. The next few passages speak about the circuit cycle and the orbits, the seasons, and their breakdowns, the 365-day year. And then Enoch speaks about the moon and its 28-day cycle, all of that. And all that is really important to know because, again, like I said, Enoch tells you about, the division of the year and how it breaks down with the sun, and it speaks about the equinoxes and the solstices and the various breakdowns of the moon and all that. But we're going to skip just a little bit. All right before the fifth heaven. We're going to skip to chapter 17. In the midst of the heavens I saw armed soldiers serving the Lord with tympana and organs, with incessant voice, with sweet voice, and with sweet incessant voices and various singings, which it is impossible to describe, and which astonishes every mind, so wonderful and marvelous is the singing of those angels. And I was delighted listening to it. Chapter 18. The men took me on to the fifth heaven and placed me, and there I saw many and countless soldiers, called Gregory, of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of the great giants, and their faces withered, and the silence of their mouths perpetual. And there was no service on the fifth heaven. And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these very withered, and their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent? And wherefore is there no service on this heaven? And they said to me, these are the Gregory, who, with their prince, Satan, rejected the Lord of light, and after them are those who are held in great darkness on the second heaven. And 3 of them went down onto the earth from the Lord's throne to the place Hermon, and broke through their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of men how good they are, and took to themselves wives, and befouled the earth with their deeds, who in all times of their age made lawlessness and mixing, and giants are born, and marvelous big men, and great enmity. And therefore God judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on the Lord's great day. And I said to the Gregory, I saw your brethren and their works and their great torments, and I prayed for them, but the Lord has condemned them to be under the earth until the existing heaven and earth shall end forever. And I said, wherefore do you wait, brethren, and do not serve before the Lord's face? And have not put your services before the Lord's face, lest you anger you, Lord, utterly. And they listened to my admonitions, and spoke to the four ranks in heaven. And lo, as I stood with those two men, four trumpets trumpeted together with great voice, and the Gregory broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before the Lord pitifully and affectingly. So you see, here again is made mention of those fallen ones, the fallen angels, and how they're being held on the second heaven, the third heaven, the Sheol, and the fourth heaven. And how that they are giants. They were bigger than even the great giants. Chapter 19, because we're quickly running out of time. And hence those men took me and bore me up to the sixth heaven, and there I saw 7 bands of angels, very bright and very glorious, and their faces shining more than the sun shining, glistening, and there is no difference in their faces or behavior or manner of dress, and these make the orders and learn the goings of the stars, of the alteration of the moon, the revelation of the sun, and the good government of the world. And when they see evil doing, they make commandments and instruction and sweet and loud singing and all songs of praise. These are the archangels who are above the angels, who measure all life in heaven and on earth, and the angels who are appointed over the seasons and the years, the angels who are over the rivers and the seas, and who are over the fruits of the earth, the angels who are over the grass, giving food to all, to every living thing, and the angels who write all the souls of men and all their deeds and their lives before the Lord's face. In the midst are 6 phoenixes and 6 cherubim and 6 winged ones continually, with one voice singing one voice, and it is not possible to describe their singing, and they rejoice before the Lord at his footstool. And those 2 great men lifted me up thence to the 7th heaven, and I saw there a very great light, and fiery troops of great archangels, and corporeal forces and dominions, orders and governments, cherubim, seraphim, thrones, many-eyed ones, and 9 regiments, though low in its stations of light, and I became afraid, and began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me and led me after them, and said to me, Have courage, Enoch, do not fear, and showed me the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there on the 10th heaven, since the Lord dwells there? On the 10th heaven is God. In the Hebrew tongue he is called Arabat. And all the heavenly troops would come and stand on the 10 steps according to their rank, and would bow down to the Lord, and would again to their places in joy and felicity, singing songs in the boundless light with small and tender voices, gloriously serving him. Chapter 21. And the cherubim and seraphim standing about the throne, the 6-winged and many-eyed ones, do not depart, standing before the Lord's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before the Lord's face, Holy, holy, holy Lord, ruler, Sabaoth, heavens and earth are full of your glory. When I saw all these things, those men said to me, Enoch, thus far it is commanded us to journey with you, and those men went away from me, and thereupon I saw them not. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, Woe is me! What has befallen me? And the Lord sent one of his glorious ones, the Archangel Gabriel, and he said to me, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. Arise before the Lord's face into eternity. Arise, come with me. And I answered him, and I said in myself, My Lord, my soul is departed from me from terror and trembling. I called to the men who led me to this place. On them I relied, and it is with them I go before the Lord's face. And Gabriel caught me up as a leaf caught up by the wind, and placed me before the Lord's face. And I saw the 8th heaven, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Mazuthalah, changer of the seasons, of drought and of wet, and of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament which are above the 7th heaven. And I saw the ninth heaven, which is called in Hebrew Kushavim, where are the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations of the cycle of the circle of the firmament. On the 10th heaven, which is called Erevath, I saw the appearance of the Lord's face, like iron made to glow with fire, and brought out emitting sparks, and it burns. Thus, in a moment of eternity, I saw the Lord's face. But the Lord's face is ineffable, marvelous, and very awful, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell of the Lord's unspeakable being, and of his very wonderful face? And I cannot tell the quantity of his many instructions and various voices. The Lord's throne is very great and not made with hands, nor the quantity of those standing around him, troops of cherubim and seraphim, nor the incessant singing, nor his immutable beauty. And who shall tell of the ineffable greatness of his glory? And I fell prone and bowed down to the Lord, and the Lord with his lips said to me, Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. Arise and stand before my face unto eternity. And the archiestrage Michael lifted me up and led me to before the Lord's face. And the Lord said to his servants, tempting them, Let Enoch stand before my face unto eternity. And the glorious ones bowed down to the Lord and said, Let Enoch go according to your word. And the Lord said to Michael, Go and take Enoch from out of his earthly garments, and anoint him with my sweet ointment, and put him into garments of my glory. And Michael did thus as the Lord told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that anointment is more than the great light. And his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's rays. And I looked at myself, and I was like a transfigured one of his glorious ones. And the Lord summoned one of his archangels by the name Praviel, whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than the other archangels, who wrote all the deeds of the Lord. And the Lord said to Praviel, Bring out the books from which my storehouses and the reed of quick writing, and give it to Enoch, and deliver it to him, the choice and comforting books out of your hand. And he was telling me all the works of heaven and earth and sea, and all the elements, their passages and goings, and the thunderings of the thunders, the sun and the moon, and the goings and the changes of the stars, the seasons, years, days, hours, the risings of the wind, the number of the angels, the formations of their songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song, and the life, the commandments, instructions, the sweet voice singings, and all things that is fitting to learn. And Praviel told me, All the things that I've told you we have written. Sit and write all the souls of mankind, however many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity. For all souls are prepared to eternity before the formation of the world. Did you get that? All souls are prepared to eternity before the formation of the world. That means we were born before this earth was ever created, that we were already in existence, that we were with the Father and with the Son, that we pre-existed, and that, yes, we were part of the first world age. And that we had spiritual lives where we existed in being through that time and space. And all double 60, 30 days and 30 nights, and I wrote all things exactly, and wrote 366 books. So Enoch says he wrote 366 books, and yet we have 3. So, Blue Girl, thank you for typing and sharing with us your perspective and all your insight. And just know that usually the chat room is happening, and there's a lot of fellowship going on. In that a lot of the usual guests are not here, but we do have a lot of new individuals. So I welcome all of you that have come in, that are part of the chat room. Hello, Janet, and PR832, and DL Boy, and Blue Girl, and all the guests, and all those that will come later and check out the chat room, and that want to also give everybody an update on the Sons of God, who we are, while we're here. If you are interested in getting an autographed copy of the book, I am still perfectly happy and willing to sign these individual books to whomever it is you may wish to personalize them to, and that you can contact me through my email. That if you want autographed copies, you have to contact me personally. You can't purchase them through tape. They won't be autographed that way. So contact me at Zen Garcia, ZenGarcia 2010 at gmail.com, gmail.com. And that once you do contact me, I'll give you instructions on how to make payment. You can PayPal that same email address, and once I do receive confirmation of your payment, I will go ahead and sign it and ship it out ASAP. I still have not received the hardcovers, but it should be soon. They said it should only take 2 more weeks than the soft copies, so it should be next week sometime, hopefully. And I am also making a bundle package available to individuals that are interested in my previous works and my previous books, that I still have copies of my 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th books available in bundle form. And for those that don't know, my 3rd book is called A Different Way of Being. It's a poetry book and has everything to do with my transition into disability, because if you don't know, I do have a disability. I am a wheelchair user. My 4th book is called Lucifer, Father of Cain. My 5th book is called Awaken to the New World Order. And my 6th book is Sons of God, who we are while we're here. And so these are available. If you would like all 4 of these books packaged together, I'm making them available for $75. That's pretty much getting 1 book for free, and all the autographs for free. And depending on where you're at, the shipping in the United States is $10 for the 4. If you are in, Europe or Australia or Ireland or Germany or any of these places, that it costs $30 to ship abroad for the weight of these 4 books. And so, just want to again thank you and wish you well on this holiday, and that you bow and humble yourself before the Father and before the Son, that you give thanks to Him, to the Creator, for all life and being, for the simple things, for the things that we overlook, that we choose, that we ignore, that we don't take perspective on, that we should be grateful for the little things, the big things, but just the chance to get together with family, to share a meal, to break bread, to pray together, to fellowship together, to share time, space, memory. That's what's important. And so I pray well-being, and that the Lord is watching over each of you and will lead you and guide you in discernment. And I pray that this book is confirmation for you as to who you are while you're here and what all this is about. In Yahushua Yahweh's name, amen.
A number of things that I've heard from people in the Pentagon, that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area that Peter's
Wow.
Can you repeat that again, just in case anybody missed it? The buzzword
in the Pentagon, in the the military circles that are in the know about the cover-up here, they kind of in whispered tones talk about the return of the Sumerian gods. And they're talking about the what we would call aliens or fallen angels returning into the Middle East, into Old Sumer area.
The Anunnaki.
Well, could be.
Under the other ancient names.
Do you think that has anything to do with why we're in a...
Also, Blue Girl asked for an update on whether you can get the book on Kindle. And yes, I do believe that it was just submitted to Amazon and a couple other places. Kindle versions were put out by Tate Publishing, but that the official release for Sons of God will be the 29th of January. And then on that date, you should be able to find the physical book in your bookstores, in your neighborhood bookstores, and that all of the web portals should also be making them available. God bless all. Good night.